Hello and welcome to the Daily Edit. I'm your host, Todd Middlebrooks. In today's episode, we're going to talk about my 3 favorite photography apps for the iPhone. Stay tuned. Okay, this should come as no surprise, but because I have talked about these 3 apps in the past, but my 3 go-to apps for different reasons on the iPhone are, and they're right here in my photography, and these are, I've got several photography apps as you can see, and these are in no super particular order because my 3 favorite are actually Lightroom Mobile, Snapseed, and Slow Shutter. And this is in addition to the regular camera app because quite honestly, I do default to that camera to take photos just because it's easier to access. I can access it directly from the lock screen and launch the camera, and so it's pretty quick. So unless I know that I need a raw image captured with the camera, I'll just default to the regular iPhone camera. That being said, I will go to Lightroom if the lighting conditions are tricky, if there's really bright highlights or dark shadows, and I know I need to capture raw to get more data for the edit. I'll default to Lightroom in that instance, or in very specific instances when I need to capture motion or motion blur or open up the shutter for an extended period of time, that's when I'll use the Slow Shutter app. And as an example of some of those photos, so this photo was taken while I was on vacation last week down on the coast of Florida, and these images were shot with Lightroom simply because the darks, again, were dark and the sunset and the sky was very bright, and I knew I was going to have to do some editing to get that final image rendered like what I was seeing. Again, here, the water was dark. I had to bring that up. The sky needed saturation and brightness brought down. So this was shot with Lightroom Mobile as well. And then some of these were shot with the standard iPhone camera. So here's a panorama. Let me take this full screen. Here's a panorama that was shot obviously with the iPhone built-in camera. And here is a shot that was captured using Slow Shutter. All 3 of these apps are free, by the way, and in the App Store. This one, I set a flip-flop or a sandal or something in the sand and prop my phone on it. I always set the timer for the Slow Shutter app so that I can remove my hand, the camera can settle, and then capture just the blurred areas that I want while keeping everything else sharp. So you'll see here the sand is sharp. Anything that wasn't moving is sharp, the buildings and things like that. But in this case, I wanted to capture the motion blur of the waves. I didn't want like crisp waves crashing on the beach. I wanted to kind of smooth that out, and so that was clearly a case for Slow Shutter as an app choice. Again, here, wanted to capture the motion blur, the silhouette of the people standing really still. That's cool. These exposures were probably 2 to 4 seconds, somewhere in that range. This one may have been a little longer. It's always good to experiment with the time that the shutter is open. This one was a little longer, obviously, and I changed my perspective just a little bit, got closer down to the water. But I just love the way that motion blur is captured. You can expose for the sky, and then in the edit, bring the shadows back up just a little bit. And again, that's the Slow Shutter app. And I can go into the App Store just so you know what that looks like. It's simply called Slow Shutter. Again, it's a free app, Slow Shutter Cam. It's a free app, pretty well rated, and has a lot of great features for capturing motion blur, as well as light streaks, things of that nature. Here you can capture light trails, so cars, lights, any moving lights, things like that. Just gives there's a waterfall example. We had an episode where we talked about capturing streaming water with the slow shutter using this app. So again, the slow shutter cam, that's my go-to for those specific types of photos. The Lightroom app looks like this in the App Store. And the great thing about Lightroom is it also, if you have a Creative Cloud subscription from Adobe, it also syncs with the iPad version, which is great if you want to use the pencil to, touch the areas that you're retouching or modifying in the edit. And it also syncs with the desktop version on Windows or Mac and allows you to have a little more editing power, or at least real estate to modify your images on your computer as well. All your edits sync back to all those devices. So if you make an edit, if you capture it in mobile and you touch it up on the iPad with a pencil, then all those changes are stored everywhere and then accessible on your computer as well to share. Another nice thing is if you do a lot of your editing on your computer and then you want to share to social media, then all those changes are populated to the mobile app and you can share directly from Lightroom Mobile there. And the last one that we have talked about in the past, not Snapchat, is Snapseed. Got to spell it right though. Snapseed. Here we go. This app is owned by Google now, and it's the go-to app for me for basic editing. Again, if I need to edit raw, now Snapseed edits raw images as well. So if you want to capture images in Lightroom and still edit in Snapseed, then that's a possibility. A lot of functionality where you can save your presets, same as Lightroom. So if you make a lot of edits, you really like the way that looks, you want to apply it to a series of images, that's possible in Snapseed. Again, that's my go-to as far as editing, and a lot of these edits for these beach photos were accomplished using Snapseed. So there you have it. My 3 favorite photography apps for the iPhone. Again, they're Lightroom Mobile, Snapseed Mobile, and then Slow Shutter Cam. Let's look at Slow Shutter Cam real quick, just because there are some features and functionality that are, I won't say difficult, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. So you need to know whether you want to capture motion blur, light trails, or if you just want to photograph in low light. Another thing about leaving that shutter open longer is you can just photograph low light photos that you might not be able to capture with the built-in iPhone camera. And then here's where you adjust that shutter speed based on the length of the shutter, and then the blur strength can be adjusted here as well. And as I said before, I always set the self timer here at the top. It can be set for 0, 1, 3, 5, or 10 seconds. That enables you to set the camera down or prop it up, get your hands off of it to eliminate motion blur caused by the camera moving, and then the shutter goes off. So basically what that looks like is if I wanted to capture, read it. If I wanted to capture an image, I've set it for 3 seconds. That's the countdown timer, and then there's the timer showing that it's capturing. Again, there's no movement there, but let's clear that. So I'll show you this countdown, and then as it starts, I'll just move, and you can see it capture that motion, okay? Now, this is not the motion you would want to capture unless, for artistic purposes, this is what you're going after. But one thing you have to do, you have to remember to do, is hit save, and then it saves that photo. Now, before you can capture another photo, you have to hit clear. It'll prompt you. You want to clear, and then you're ready to go again. The reason being is you can actually stack captured photos. So if I wanted to capture this image, and then on top of that, I wanted to, and you can see the preview in the top left. There you guys are. And I wanted to capture that. Then what it'll do is layer those images. So it's hard to tell there, but there's the cabinet drawer image there, overlaid with the camera image and a little bit of slight blur that was added when I moved the camera. Again, you can stack those and then save them out. You can do some basic editing here. This is kind of neat because it does allow you to freeze any of the motion or images that were captured there, and then do your basic brightness, contrast, and saturation and hue setting, edits there rather. And so that is the slow shutter app. So Lightroom Mobile, Snapseed for the iPhone, and Slow Shutter Cam. Those are my 3 go-to photography apps on the iPhone. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of the Daily Edit. Join us next time. And until then, I've been Todd Middlerooks. Have a good one. How about we go here?